Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special episode of Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and welcome to our program today. Now, I say this is a little special because this is kind of going to be, kind of integrated and also be released with a companion episode because we are doing the special film that's called Krull from 1983. Now, if you've been paying attention to what we've been doing, this episode itself will just be kind of having a conversation in critique and analyzing the film. But we also have a companion episode that will delve deep into one of our very esteemed writers out there who has written an unofficial companion to the movie Krull. So you want to make sure to check out that as well. And we'll tell you more about that as the episode goes along. But we wanted to kind of give you something special for this film that, you may think is a little odd being on a horror podcast, but we're going to explain to you why it is included here. So with that in mind, I want you to welcome my two guests today. Yes, we have a special two guests who love this movie, I hope, and we're going to discuss it. And that would be Dave Watkins and Thomas Tillerello. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, man. It's good.
The day is mine.
Yeah.
That was Thomas, and he does that sometimes on our podcast. So we're hoping to hear some more craziness from him as the show progresses. Now,
it only gets crazier from here, Kevin.
What was that?
Trust me, Kevin. It only gets crazier from here.
It only gets crazier.
I said, trust me, Kevin. It only gets crazier from here.
Yeah, well, we're talking about a crazy movie.
Yeah, it only gets crazy.
A film that is very divisive among fans. And, a lot of people will consider this more of a fantasy than a horror film. But I kind of like to put this movie within our horror fantasy genre because there are fantasy films out there that incorporate many elements of the horror genre, which is why we're going to be discussing it today. So, guys, I would love to hear kind of your impressions of this movie or a little story about when you first saw it. Let's start with you, Dave.
So the weird thing was I had seen this before, but not too long ago, maybe 10 years ago or so. And I had a copy of it, but I couldn't find but I had to buy this, I had to buy a Blu-ray of it. There is a 4K coming out like next month, so we did this a little early. But hopefully that 4K is going to look a lot better for some of the scenes. But I got the Blu-ray and I didn't remember it very well. I'm pretty sure I'd seen it before, but for some reason I did not remember it hardly. But it almost felt like maybe it was the first time I'd seen it when I watched it this time.
Okay. What about you, Thomas?
Well, I grew up with this movie because it was on heavy rotation on HBO and TNT or TBS. So, in fact, I'm almost certain that my first memory of it is there was a TV promo for it, which was featured prominently in one of my favorite shots.
Oh, I'm sure he will come back. But as he's coming back, I will say this. With my story with this film is I kind of grew up with this film. I remember it when it very first came out, but I had not seen the beginning because I saw it on TV. I always missed the first 15 minutes of this movie. So my moment for this movie is when the main character is on the steps Calvin is on the steps being helped or nursed back to health right before he starts his big journey, this adventure that kind of incorporates so many different elements of other films. And I know that people like to think of this as like a knockoff of Star Wars, but my impressions of this was that they were very different films altogether. One took place in space, spaceships, all that kind of stuff. I didn't see the spaceship in this movie. I just saw it was a big mountain.
But I think this is like a lot of different films, though. I got a list. It's a hodgepodge of different films. But
it is a hodgepodge of different films. Yeah. I will not disagree with you. It's a hodgepodge.
I'm back.
That's okay, Thomas. I started telling everybody kind of like my.
And actually, it's.
What was that, Thomas?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sure yours is much more interesting anyway. Like I said, So I'm sure yours was much more interesting anyway. Like I probably I don't know if how much of it got through, but I did say that like my first impression of it was seeing it on like TBS or HBO and seeing like promos for it, and then I finally watched it and I was like, ew, this is different. And I think what's cool about it is the aesthetic. It has a particular aesthetic that would made it very different from other fantasy movies at the time, which is that Krull, which the title of this movie is the world. This is an alien world. It's not. I mean, yes, it has medieval trappings, but there's also like knights in shining plasticky armor in the beginning
Yeah.
of the movie, the part that you did not see, Kevin.
Yeah.
They look like stormtroopers,
Yeah.
but they also have enemies from space. There are aliens that come to this planet with laser muskets or it's laser guided muskets, because if you look very closely they have a little spike on them, the slayers, and zap it, and then in a great effect the spike is gone. So it's like they're laser guided, they're not shooting literal lasers, and then they turn it over and it's like a little sword, so like they can only shoot this thing once. But yeah, it's like it starts with space, but it's not a space fantasy
No.
per se, because it's only set on Krull.
Right. Like, and it's like kind of like Star Wars is set in a galaxy far, far away, but it is set on a world that's kind of like our world, but it's in some ways it's more advanced, in other ways it's not as advanced as our planet at the time in 1983.
Mhm.
They like you're saying, like some of the guards there look like stormtroopers, like at the castle.
Slayers.
They're not the slayers, like the people who are the guards at the castle. They have like futuristic looking stuff on, but then the rest of the main characters are wearing medieval garbs. So
It's
Yeah,
almost
it's almost as if
well,
I
no,
was just saying it's almost as if like the kingdom itself has kind of chosen to stay in the medieval kind of period, and then like they could have electricity and stuff, but they
yeah,
choose not to.
yeah, I can see that. Yeah, yeah, and
well,
there's really a lot there. If you it looks like, I mean, if you look at this compared to Star Wars, it doesn't look nearly as good. The budget is twice that or bigger. It's a $30 million budget. With Star Wars had $11 million, but it doesn't. But it's got a lot more special effects than Star Wars does. But something about they went over. I think they maybe went a little bigger than they should have with it, because they don't quite in some instances pull it off. But at the same time, it does. If you look at Star Wars, for the most part, it kind of still resonates, even though they fixed it a lot. They've gone through and tweaked it and put computer generation in it and stuff like that. But this one, a lot of times, it does look very dated when you're watching it.
and that's one of the things I was discussing
Oh
in
yeah,
other interview with the author of the book, Eric Wolford, and the unofficial companion to the movie Krull. A lot of the special visual effects for this film were cutting edge for the time in which it was made. But the thing is, unlike Star Wars, a lot of the effects in here seem much more dated than in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think that the ideal behind what we've been discussing, the fact that this film seems like it's a mix or hodgepodge of futuristic versus the medieval times, that they ride horses in this film. It relies a lot on your suspension of disbelief when you're watching it, because you're not sure if you're watching a futuristic movie or something that takes place in the medieval times type of thing.
Yeah. Now, just the fact that they ride the horses, that added a lot to the budget, because it's like there's a lot of horse riding going on here, and they ride horses inside of a castle and things of that nature. So that in itself is a lot harder to shoot than most of the stuff in the Star Wars film.
Yeah. And the thing about this movie is, when I was a kid and I saw this film, because it was such a hodgepodge of different genres that I kind of liked as a kid, I gravitate. I guarantee you, I watched this film more than I watched Star Wars.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But you only ever watched after the first 15 minutes after that, right? Or
I never owned this film
Yeah.
for the longest time. So what happened is I don't think I ever recognized the beginning as being the beginning of Krull. So if the beginning ever came up, I never recognized it.
Did you record it on VHS or something and only have like that part of the
Yes,
movie? Yeah, that
yes.
happened with a lot of movies I had too.
Uh,
It's,
I
it's
I never had the beginning.
yeah, yeah,
I never had the beginning, and so that's how I watched the movie for such a long time. Is without the beginning, and
yeah.
and the funny thing is, we back in the day, you'd set your VHS to record certain movies, and the movie would start late, or the recording would start late, but that would be the only version of the movie that you'd see because that's
Yeah.
what was recorded.
And
That
yeah, it was always like 10 or 15 minutes missing from the film at the beginning. There were several movies like that. I mean, a lot of times that didn't matter though. It's just the oddest thing in like movies from that time period. The first 10 minutes a lot of times was a little more grown up than the rest of the film. It seemed like kind of the exposition to it, you know.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
this film had never made any difference to me. I started at the good part. Callan's getting healed by Ynir. I think it's Ynir.
Yeah, you're right. It's
And
in ear is how it's pronounced apparently.
and then the rest of the journey starts from there for me.
Yeah, but you know, with the beginning part of it and all that raiding at the castle, it reminds me of Dune. Like when they come in and raid the castle and they get away. That kind of the setup is a little bit like Dune, a little,
Mm.
you know. But of course, in Dune, that part doesn't happen until almost halfway through the film. But this one, it happens in the first 10 or 15 minutes.
I have to see when David Lynch's Dune was made. I don't know offhand when that was made.
What the novel of Dune was 1965.
Yeah.
The movie Dune was after this,
Okay.
but the novel was already around and people were aware of it at the time.
Mm, mm. So, but you know, this is one of those weird films that I never spoke about to my friends. So I never, and when I did, no one had ever seen the movie or much less heard of this damn movie. Because for me, this film, I love this film because of the glaive. The glaive is one of my favorite props for a film ever. It still is one of my. I have a prop of that glaive in my office.
You throw it, does it work?
No. It's a small one. I've been trying to find someone on Etsy to make a big one, like
Yeah.
a 1-to-1. But I found the smaller version because they do it. They 3D print them. But yeah.
What's hilarious about that prop in the film is how he goes on this quest earlier on to get it, and he comes back, he talks to the editor about it, and he's like, I got it. He's like, all right, now put it up. We have to. We don't no testing it or practicing nothing. Just put it up, and we'll use it when we need it at the end of the movie.
Yeah, there's no training montage for this thing.
He just knows how to use it at the end of the movie. Kind of like the fire that he gets. He just knows how to use it. He takes the fire from his.
I think it's more. I think it's more like the Schwartz in Spaceballs, where he gets the ring and he just knows how to use the ring. And when he loses the ring, Yogurt tells him, "Forget the ring. The Schwartz is in you, Lone Star." And then it's the same thing at the end of this movie. His wife Lissa tells him when he loses the glaive, spoilers, that no, Colwyn, the power is in you. And that's when he realizes that he can just, flame on the. But yes, however, like we're using words like glaive and stuff like that. There's some people out there who probably don't know what the heck we're talking about, so we should probably tell them a little bit about what this freaking freaky movie is.
It depends on how much fun we're gonna have with the movie, because it truly is like the plot in general terms is very much like Star Wars in that you have this prince type guy, this guy who's going after to save his princess, who's been captured by the evil Darth Vader. I mean, not Darth Vader, the Beast.
The Beast who comes to this planet in a black fortress, which looks like a quasi-organic, fossilized, like castle-ish thing, but it flies sideways in the beginning of the movie in this huge, epic, amazing-looking space sequence. So basically, this is the only spaceship in this entire movie, and it touches down and cracks the foundations of the planet, kind of like the Skeksis Castle in Dark Crystal.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's the place, and that is his base of operations. And the Beast just sends out the Slayers, who are these stormtrooper-looking things. But like I said, they have laser muskets, and they go to Colwyn's castle, rudely interrupting his wedding to this girl named Lissa, who he has just met today. Yeah. Which is one thing I like about this movie, by the way, is how like it's one of the few instances of arranged marriage that actually is portrayed in a positive light. So I thought that was pretty nice.
She's into it.
Like they steal. She's into him. Yeah,
but I think she knows of him beforehand, even though they've just met. She's heard. She must have heard something because she's like, even before he gets there, she's excited about it.
Yeah. I get that impression too.
Yeah, she knows him.
So
yeah, she knows him by reputation. She's like, "Oh, you're a fighter, and fighters don't make good husbands." And he's like, "What makes you say that?" And and goes in for the kiss.
Yeah,
but that's
they have an instant connection. Like once they come and they see each other, it's like boom, we're made for each other. That's kind of how it goes in the movie.
Yeah, but thankfully the actors have good chemistry.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it comes off really well. So
they did a little bit of rehearsing before they shot the scene. So it's like.
Hey, we've seen lots of movies where the two main stars don't have chemistry at all.
No, I agree. I was joking, but one thing though about those Slayers, there's something else with them too. They have like some kind of alien monster thing in their head. So when they get killed, it's like a little monster thing comes out of their head. And I think that's the only thing that's in their bodies. The rest of their body may be a robot.
Yeah,
like a lobster. That's right.
Yeah. That is the thing about this movie that, for better or worse, kind of defines it, which is this idea that when you're writing a fantasy or a science fiction that takes place in a completely alien world that has its own rules, it's familiar, but yet also unfamiliar. There's always the trap, especially in modern screenwriting, to over-explain everything.
Yeah.
And this movie sometimes explains a lot, and then other times it explains absolutely nothing and leaves so many things mysterious, like the Slayers. What the heck are they? Yeah. We have no idea. I have this theory that maybe the beast births them. Like they're like his little spermy egg things that slither around, and they're these shells, basically, that the humanoid-looking suit that the Slayers occupy is like operated by remote control, basically by the little parasite things. Kind of like the creatures in a movie we talked about not too long ago, The Hidden.
Right. So, I could see that. It'd be hilarious too if they had this kind of really like backstory like that. They're like, we're just not going to say it out loud, but this is what it is.
Yeah.
There is a narration at the beginning of this that like this Blu-ray did not have subtitles on it. I had a really hard time hearing a lot of it, but it's
really a Blu-ray without subtitles.
Yeah, it was aggravating. So I had to.
Wow.
And there was a lot of times I couldn't understand what the heck was. I had to like turn it up and rewind scenes because it was just the audio kind of sucks too. That's why I'm looking forward to the 4K. I bet it's going to be a lot better.
Interesting.
Wow, I bet that is that's unheard of. Like my DVD has subtitles.
I know. I would have been better off getting the DVD. I was just thinking the Blu-ray would be a better option. But
wow.
It was not a good. I have a hard time without subtitles. I guess I'm getting too old, but without the subtitles, it's like you miss a lot of stuff.
Details. That's crazy. Well, ladies and gentlemen out there, you can find this movie for streaming very easily. Tubi has a good print of it, and it has subtitles. It's also the only way I knew how to spell any of these characters' names.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, before we move on, like I said, so this is a general kind of alien invasion sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The beast, who is literally a beast. This is not a metaphor. He is a monster. He's a literal 15-foot story monster thing. That is definitely where the horror comes in this piece, because there's kind of a Lovecraftianness to the beast where he's never fully seen, and sometimes when you see him, his face is seen in like jagged mosaic, almost as if to look upon the beast. You look upon like reality and light is bent and broken just by his presence.
I was kind of thinking it was going to be some Wizard of the Oz like shit going on with the beast.
Oh, that would have been neat.
Yeah,
That
But
would
he
have
ended
been
up,
neat.
yeah, he ended up being kind of similar to what he looks like. But it does, I do like the effect of the beast. It does look good. It looks
What's
pretty
funny
cool
too
looking.
is like I don't know where I saw this. It was on Facebook, but somebody posted a picture, a production still. I think maybe it might have been in black and white of what the beast suit looked like with in full light, without any effects or anything. And honestly, he kind of looks sad and pathetic. Like like
Yeah.
he's like the poor thing looks like he's got like all of his organs outside of his body.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of see if you look at his head closely, his brain is exposed.
The
Like,
Go ahead.
and
No.
he's got those big red dopey heavy lidded eyes. So I almost for the first time felt like, "Aw, he must be in pain all the time."
Well, one of the things that was a surprise to the people who the cast when they saw the movie is the fact that they did that effect on the beast at the end when they weren't expecting that. That's one of the things that Eric made
Oh yeah.
a comment in his book. A lot of people were surprised by that because that's not how it was originally filmed, and it wasn't how they were originally supposed to. It was supposed to be in the movie. It was a complete shock when they saw that.
Was it a shock in a good way,
Wow.
or were they like, "Damn, this sucks"?
It's shocking and bad. Yeah, it was bad. They wanted to see the monster the way it was originally conceived, and you don't see that the way that the film edited. So,
But it probably didn't look good, so they're like, "We got to do something different."
so
Yeah, I wish I had that still. I wish I had that still with me to like put up for you to see because like I said, it's kind of like the original like xenomorph suit for Alien. I mean, if you see it, yeah, it looks great, but if you were to see it on film, Ridley Scott looked at it and like, yeah, it still kind of looks like a guy in a suit.
Mm.
So I
yeah.
gotta make it not look quite like a guy in a suit.
Well,
But you can't get around that.
it doesn't look nearly as good as Tim Curry in Legend. Okay, they
Yeah,
couldn't do that.
yeah, that is pretty
Oh, they
impressive
could
there.
do that if they wanted to. They could do that if they wanted to, Kevin. They just didn't want to.
A lot
I
of
will say though, it is. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, when you read about a lot of the visual effects and time they put in this movie, there was a lot of care put in this movie, but because of the time period in which it was released, there was there seems to be this consensus that nobody knew what was going to happen with this type of a movie when it came out.
Yeah, there's also a lot of effects.
Mhm.
There's if you look at what's actually there, and also the sets. There's a lot of
There's
sets,
a
and
lot of
that
stuff.
especially that fortress set at the end. That one's crazy.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that's this movie. It is like
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I mean, Legend was that's what I was saying earlier. They maybe went a little too ambitious. Where if they cut back maybe on some of it, they could have spent more time with other parts of it, and it would have looked more polished in the end.
Well, that was one of the reasons why they didn't go with a name actor for Cowan. They were hoping to save money on having a big actor by getting someone they thought was going to be an up and coming actor, kind of like what they
Right.
did with the original Star Wars movies with Mark
Yeah.
Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford. Sorry, unfortunately, that didn't work out because
Yeah.
Ken Marshall never became that big star, and
yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I feel like I think I get it because like I don't know if he's quite as charismatic as he should have been. Like he doesn't really have that extra thing that like a Mark Hamill does, or like a even like a Patrick Swayze does, where like you look at that guy and think, oh yeah, he's a star. But like I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. It's like maybe it's just something about the performance that some of it just feels a little too artificial. I mean, I know this is the kind of movie where you can get away with that sort of thing, but at the same time, though, I don't know. There's something missing about him. I'll tell you, there are some other. Speaking of actors in this movie, there are some fairly famous now actors that are in this movie. I mean, Freddie Jones, who plays Ymir,
yeah,
is a fantastic British actor who I knew mostly as the horrible Mr. Bites from The Elephant Man. as the guy who cared for the Elephant Man, the freak show, and abused him. He later went on to be in one of Frankenstein's creatures in Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed for Hammer Films. And then you have filling out the cast. There is let's see, we got Liam Neeson in this movie.
Yeah.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Liam freaking Neeson is in this movie, and so is Robbie Coltrane, God rest him, who played Hagrid in the original Harry Potter movies. And they have a very small part in this movie because this was early in their careers. But they have dialogue at least.
But it's not that small as you would think, though.
Yeah,
because
they're not that small.
Yeah, because even Robbie Coltrane, maybe he doesn't get that much, but Liam Neeson gets a pretty good bit of screen time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he does get that. Liam does get a character arc of sorts. He gets a thing, where he's just traveling. But basically, to explain, ladies and gentlemen, when Colwyn goes on his epic mission to save his wife and his world, he gets the glaive, which is like the spinning chakram, like pictured like Xena Warrior Princess kind of thing, but with cooler blades. And along the way, he meets a kind of like dumpy wizard who's not really very good at his job, wizarding. And he has a really good character arc.
Yeah. He's got shape shifting is what his basic thing is. But
that's the thing that he does well.
But he's a coward.
Yeah. This is a lot.
But he's a coward.
This is inspired by Dungeons and Dragons a lot too. Like it's a quest where he gathers a big group of people with him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And amongst that group of people is like some brigands, some thieves, and escaped prisoners who try to rob him. And then Cohen's like, "No, join me on my quest." And they're like, "Okay."
They all just like eventually go along with it, and that's one thing that kind of it kind of frustrated me a little bit with the movie is the way that he acts with the people in his group get killed. It's not like that big a deal, even though they've all like come with him and on this journey. And it's like, okay, well, they're dead. The important thing is we got to save the princess.
Well,
I'm glad you. I'm sorry. I'm glad you mentioned that, Watkins. Yeah. Because like that is something that I noticed when I first watched it as a child. And I think that's what disturbed me a little bit about this movie is how cheap life is in Krull. Like this is like one of the few fantasy films where like almost everybody dies, except for obviously Colwyn, his wife, the wizard, and the boy who.
The main bandit doesn't die either, which is kind of cool. They let one of the bandits live. Why did it have to be the main one? Why couldn't it have been like Liam Neeson or Robbie Coltrane's character? It had to have been like the one that has more screen time, Well,
Alan Torkel's character.
I know, right?
Yeah. Alan Torkel's character has a specific character arc. He refuses to have his handcuffs taken off until the quest is complete. And then that's when he gets when he's allowed to get his he gets the key to all of that. And then he says he doesn't want them off at that point. And then he becomes more or less the king by Cowan's own words. Because Cowan and his girl are going to go off to the sunset and live their lives without the whole kingdom shit.
Wait, he lets that dude have the kingdom? I didn't realize.
Yes, whoever has the key, he gives the key to him, the helm. And and that's you keep the leader of the band, the leader of the band, alive.
I didn't realize they went and I didn't even. Yeah, I don't even agree with that decision. They should have went and rolled the kingdom.
Most of the people are dead.
It does say there's a prophecy, because there's always a prophecy in the beginning of the movie where it says, and I quote, that a girl of ancient name shall choose for herself a king, and their son shall rule the planet, and they will rule the planet Krull, and their son shall rule the galaxy.
Yeah.
So clearly, I think after this whole adventure is done, King Colwyn and Queen Lissa will rule and reign. But this was clearly intended to be part of the series And that was the one thing that would bum me out about this movie, is that I wanted to see this kid who was going to rule the galaxy. And also I wanted to figure out, how the heck do these people get from world to world? Because there's no spaceships, like you said. Are there stargates? Do they travel to other worlds by magic? There is one off-worlder in the party, and he is a Cyclops. We haven't mentioned him yet. This guy is literally a Cyclops. He's got one eye in the center of his head that blinks. It's a really cool effect. And his thing was that his people came from a distant world beyond Krull. And they came here, and they came from a world that was conquered by the Beast, which is interesting. But they basically made a deal with the Beast in order to take one of their eyes in exchange for seeing the future. But the Beast tricked them and is like, so now you will see the future, but the only future you see is the day you die.
Yep.
So the Cyclops knows the exact day and the hour when he's going to die. And at one point, he breaks from the party right after he's showed them how to get to the Black Fortress quickly with these fire horses, which is pretty cool, by the way. A really epic, magical sequence. It's almost E.T.-ish, the way that they gallop on these fiery horses off a cliff, flying, basically. And it's pretty awesome. But he's like, I got to go because I got to go die. I know how I'm going to die, and I got to go die. And he's like, all right, each man to his fate. But then, twist, as they're trying to storm the Black Fortress, they can't get in because they're pressed in under heavy fire. In comes the Cyclops on a fire main, because he's like, screw my fate. And he goes in and helps them get in, and then gets crushed by a door, which was really disturbing.
Right.
Like death, like I said, death in this movie happens very disturbingly.
That was
I thought, going back a minute, I thought, there's, like many great fantasy epics, there is a quicksand sequence. And I don't know why, but as a kid, I was always like disturbed by scenes of people drowning and or suffocating.
Quicksand.
Maybe it's just my thing, but like, quicksand kind of scared me a little bit as a kid. And there is a scene where they go to a swamp, and they have to go to this swamp because this emerald blind seer says, "Oh, if I go to this place in this swamp, I can, broadcast like my visionary mind so that I can find where the Black Fortress is going to be." We failed to mention, folks, that the Black Fortress teleports.
Yeah. I was going to mention that. Yeah. Yeah, but it teleports, and that's why they have to get the horses to begin with. That's why they have to get the fast horses, because when they know it's moving, that they have to get there quick enough before it moves to another time.
Right. So then they go to this swamp, and they get ambushed by the Slayers in the swamp, but there's also a quicksand in the swamp. And I thought, like you were talking earlier, Dave, about how you misremembered this movie quite a bit. And when I rewatched it, I realized I also misremembered this movie quite a bit, because I thought a lot more death happened in this movie at that point. And I didn't realize that they only lose 2 people in the swamp. Yeah. I thought, well, that's interesting.
That swamp part's pretty. Yeah, that swamp part.
They only lose that one.
So, yeah.
Well,
it's intense, but it's only one guy.
But, they only use one of their
one guy goes down in the sand.
And then
one guy goes down in the sand.
The seer.
And then the old guy, and that brings us to our second monster, the Changeling, which is a very creepy creature. There's 2 changelings, actually, but the first one just is a shapeshifter that assumes the form of whoever he's about to kill, basically. And apparently they can shapeshift, but they can also make claws come out of their hand, and he kills the poor old guy. And it's very upsetting. And buries his body and tries to use his form as a way to get to Colwyn, because that's clearly his target. And they do this little kind of bait thing. Colwyn's going to lead the seer, and you're thinking, oh no, he's going to get... But then the brigand guy we mentioned earlier, he's like, no, I'll lead the seer. And we're all like, oh, thank God, he's going to die instead. But that does not happen.
With that, with the seer too, they had to take him out.
Yeah,
they would have been able to find the fortress a lot quicker had they not done that.
Yeah, and don't be knocking Torquil, who's the leader of the band, dude. I love that. I love Alan Armstrong. He played in some of my favorite British movies. We haven't talked about Split Second yet, but we will get around to that one day. And I love him in all these movies. He was in like a character actor.
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah. I love Split.
He's in so many characters.
I love Split Second. Yes, one of Rutger Hauer's best films. But yeah, you're right. It's like the plot kind of starts and stops, and whenever they go from one fetch quest to the next, basically. Yeah. And like you said, it is very D&D. It is very D&D-ish. In fact, I could swear I read somewhere that this movie was going to be called. It was going to have Dungeons and Dragons in the title. Oh, I thought for sure at some point I read that somewhere it was going to be tied into the game. Yeah. But they decided not to do that at the last possible second.
Right.
Which is probably just as well.
It's also a sword and sorcery film, which became popular when Conan the Barbarian was released. So it's kind of a combination between that and Star Wars, and movies like Excalibur. It's kind of like a combination of those three types of films.
Yeah, it's the 80s. We discussed the 80s, the decade of the 80s many times, in which everybody was trying to figure out what was the best formula to get people in the seats to go see these films. Star Wars was the anomaly in 78. I think his first one was 78, right? And then
77.
Okay. Yeah. And then of course everyone everyone was trying to come up with the next movie franchise, I guess. I can't remember when Empire Strikes Back came out for some reason. I used to know when that came out, but when you have something as big as what was that?
1980.
So it was before this. And so when you have a franchise as big as that, everybody wants to catch on the bandwagon. And they can't all be really cheap movies like Roger Corman did, where he just knocked off all these movies.
Right.
There was a lot of ambition behind this movie. They wanted something, popular like Star Wars, but also like Excalibur. Definitely a lot like Excalibur. I didn't even think about that till you mentioned that. Because Excalibur was huge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing I love about Excalibur as well as this movie is like how it leans into the impossible and the fantastical. Whereas like you look at, more recent adaptations of the King Arthur legend, keep trying to insist on, this is the real story behind the legend, which is bullcrap because there is no real story behind the legend. There is no historian who seriously considers that King Arthur was a real human. There are fringe guys who do, but that's a whole other thing. This movie, like I said, it's an alien world in a galaxy far, far away. And like for all I know, this movie takes place in the same universe as Star Wars. It's a different part of the galaxy. It's a big freaking galaxy, folks. Yeah. But how cool would that be? They're just a hop, skip, and a jump of light speed away from Tatooine, and Krull's just sitting there. Which, by the way, no coincidence, Krull has two sons too. Krull is a binary star, just like Tatooine. Which actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the James we're finding out now with the James Webb Telescope is that there are lots of Earth-like planets with binary stars, which is kind of interesting. How it seems like binary systems might be more plentiful than our single sun system might be. So it's kind of interesting. There might be worlds like Krull just running around.
Yeah. Sure, they're medieval for sure.
Oh yeah,
castles and
that's why they're not trying to reach out to us, man. But so like I said, they're going from fetch quest to fetch quest, and like when they can't use the seer because dead, the Ymir pipes in and says, "I know someone," and it turns out that his ex-wife is now this witch ? Who lives in a giant spider web, and she's protected by this giant spider, who, by the way, I think this spider is the best special effect in the whole movie. I love this stop motion spider. It's like What makes it a great puppet, aside from the smoothness of its movement, is the fact that this thing is like translucent. It looks like it's made of glass, but it also looks organic. It's got some kind of red ball thing inside of its little carapace, and it's so great. I mean, the scale on it's a little wonky. You don't really know how big it is till the end, but it's so well animated, and it's so creepy. If you guys don't like giant spiders out there, ladies and gentlemen, this might not be something for you to watch, because it's terrifying.
It's a creepy scene.
But yeah, Ymir has.
Yeah.
Go see.
Oh,
Ymir
right.
has
We
to
haven't
see his
even mentioned
girl.
What's that?
The music, though. Well, I'm sorry to digress, but Watkins, you mentioned it. The music, the themes in this movie is by Jerry Goldsmith, I believe, and yeah, it's very.
Well, yeah, we'll get back to the music, but the Widow in the Web, which we hadn't told everyone her name, the Widow of the Web. And the great thing about this sequence is it adds a little bit more information about Ynir. You figure out that this was someone he was previously involved with, but she also killed their child because she was so jealous of him. And those background things are what adds to these characters. One of the things. One of the things I love about this movie is that they could have easily just made these characters into caricatures, but there are lots of great scenes with these films, with these characters, where they add a little oomph to their character. Even the Liam Neeson character, while during this same sequence, while Ynir is with the Widow of the Web, the rest of them are waiting in their own little makeshift camp, but they don't have any supplies with them. So Keegan, who was played by Liam Neeson, has one of his wives. Now we realize he has lots of wives scattered all over the world. When he goes to get one of his wives to cook them food and everything else, because one of the few movies where they actually have to eat to survive, and we actually see that.
And they have to go get his wife to cook for him.
Yeah. So but you realize that he has kids by different wives because he's a robber who travels, and so of course you got in this world they have multiple wives and children scattered everywhere, stuff like that. Yeah. But it humanizes these characters, because the one thing that they all do is they love the one kid who's with them on the traveling, who came with the seer. What is the kid's name? I can't even think of that kid's name all of a sudden. And I should.
I don't think they ever say it.
Yeah, he has a name, and I can't think of a stupid name to save my life.
We said the kid is hanging out with Liam Neeson's character, right?
So. The kid hangs out with each of the we see scenes with each of them. They all take to this kid who's with the seer. And I can't, and especially Ergo. And this the thing is, Ergo, who's very selfish, until this kid comes along, and he masquerades as a dog because the kid wishes that he had a dog, and he tells the Cyclops it was such a ridiculous wish, but he did it anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
He did it anyways.
Yeah.
And that's why the Cyclops likes Ergo so much, is because even though Ergo wants to be this great magician that he claims to be, and he's not very good at it, and he sometimes seems selfish, he's very selfless a lot of times, and the Cyclops sees this. And of course, Ergo and the Cyclops become really good, I guess, friends. Like, he wants to join the Cyclops on the ride to the castle on the fire horse, but he's told by the Cyclops that the Cyclops is waiting to die, and he feels a little bit let down by all that. Why would those type of moments are what makes this film for me. Like, they could have easily just not had any of these type of moments in this type of film in the 80s, and we would have never thought anything of it. But
two things about that, though, that it's like a lot of times when they do these moments, it's to foreshadow the character's death, because you get a good character moment, and then they get killed. So they kind of make the audience give some kind of impact to it. So sometimes it's kind of, even though it is a character moment, but it's really designed to make you try to care more when they die. I was going to say too, when the Cyclops, go ahead, Thomas.
Oh no, I was going to say I do see that pattern, but at the same time,
Yeah.
So I was going to say about the Cyclops. So when he dies, it does matter. It kind of when I first saw it, I was like, it's kind of weird that all of a sudden he shows back up and immediately dies again. But in order for them to get inside of that fortress, he had to be there because they would have never gotten inside of it without him holding the door open like that.
Yeah, but you also got to remember that it's not
Yeah.
just fate that keeps the Cyclops at their side. He watches these characters from afar at first, and then he reveals himself, and he becomes he empathizes and he starts to become one with this band that he feels that he's a part of. Since there's no one else, like he almost feels like he's the last Cyclops of his kind left, and he has a duty to uphold. He could have very easily not have helped them out completely. He could have easily just died where he was supposed to die and not help them out at the actual castle at the end of the movie. But without those character moments, there's no reason for him to go back there. Like you need those character moments for the Cyclops to actually take that stand to defy his own fate and go and help, no matter what the cost is. Which is ultimately his life,
Well, he's going to die. He's going to die anyway, because
they do delay Neeson's death a little bit after his character moment. I mean, he doesn't die until they're in the Black Fortress, and he gets. Yeah, and I have to say, his death is just so. It's so nothing. It's so like he gets shot by a slayer.
Robbie Coltrane gets a better death than he does. And he's hardly in it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, hey, at least Neeson gets a last line. He says, "Oh, my traveling days are over." Oh, which I have to say, before we get into it, since we're talking about it, I might as well put in here that as I was rewatching this film, and I thought to myself, I don't really think there's any room for this for a Schwarzenegger alternator, but we have Mr. Liam Neeson here. And we really have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity to give him a bit of a better death scene, maybe a better death line. So I'm going to say here, let's reimagine that scene where he's dying, and we're going to put it through what I call the Liam Neeson alternator, where I got 4 alternative death lines he could have said. So here we go, the Neeson alternator. And hopefully we'll have no technical difficulties. Here we go. I got 4 of these. So here's a variation. Sorry, man, my traveling days are over. But one thing's for sure, I definitely need a new agent. Number 2. Tell my wives I love them. Except for Merida, she was a whore. Okay. Number 3. Oh, damn it. I'll never get to use my particular set of skills. Which is one thing I noticed. Like, they never really get to use their skills in this movie. They're just kind of there. And finally, number 4. Promise me that you'll see Naked Gun in theaters while you can. Because if you don't, I'll come back for you. And I will find you. And I will kill you.
Okay.
I had to put that in there because one of my day jobs is being an extra in movies, and I am in Naked Gun as an extra. So
I saw it at the theater. I thought it was really good.
Did you notice me?
I did. Yeah, I didn't know to look for you. Which scene were you in?
I'm in the beer line when Paul Walter Hauser is giving out beer for free. Okay, and the second to last shot is like my head kind of pokes in for a little bit. So
that's cool.
When you watch it on Blu-ray, pause it.
It will be on 4K if I watch it again.
If you watch it again,
I thought it was strong though. It was good. It's good that they got a comedy movie in the theater. It's been a long time and it's made some money, so that's a good sign.
Well, yes, yeah, it is.
It is a good sign.
Well, it's not,
before one thing,
go ahead.
Oh, I was I was about to say, like, before we move on, I was there. There was we were talking about all that scene leading up to the Lemire's death and the Widow of the Web thing, but there is a beat in this that I really enjoyed because it's like it feels very Arthurian, very Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and it's a scene where a girl from the village comes with Liam Neeson's wife, number seven. Uh, Obviously not Merida, who was a bitch apparently. Uh, there's this blonde who comes in, and we don't know this until we cut back to Lissa, which, by the way, we forgot to mention that while all this stuff is happening, we periodically cut back to Lissa inside the fortress. And we see the inside of the fortress, which is like this weird Salvador Dali kind of Giger-esque thing.
Yeah.
And it looks like the whole place is made out of bones and parts of it twitch, which is really cool.
It's a cool set. It's a cool set. It looks great.
It is, and the matte paintings that combine with it are incredible. But like, she has this kind of temptation, this sort of like satanic temptation scene where the beast, which, by the way, I don't think we've mentioned here, but like the beast, yes, he's a monster, but he has dialogue. He talks.
Yeah.
In fact, he has lots of dialogue. I love it when a monster has dialogue. I don't know why. But back in the 80s, not a lot of monsters had dialogue. But the beast talks to Lissa, and for whatever reason, he believes that he needs Lissa as his queen.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be so all powerful. I don't know why he thinks he needs her to be his queen by his side, but there you go. He never explains that.
It's kind of like Bowser when he takes the princess in Mario Brothers.
Yes.
Yes,
exactly. Exactly. But like he's got her. He's got her in the fortress, and we find out that he like waves his magic hand and says, "Oh, you can marry me, and I can assume whatever form you like." And he assumes the form of Colwyn. Except he's got red, creepy eyes.
Yeah.
And she's like, "There's no love in their eyes." And he's like, "But do you think that your love will be true?" And he looks and shows his crystal ball, basically. And sure enough, that blonde is totally macking on Colwyn. And that blonde is totally a shapeshifter, the second changeling in this movie. Yeah. But like, she's so moved by her love for Colwyn that she doesn't kill him. And so the beast is like, "Oh, I knew I shouldn't have hired that one," and just kills her. And by the way, the death scream that all his monsters say, that I swear that's been recycled in millions of other very low budget movies ever since this movie came out. I've heard it a million other places, but I can't think of a single instance. But I thought it was really cool how this is one of the only times in the movie where Colwyn and Lissa are kind of connected over a distance, and also where the beast has an active role where he's trying to wear away at Lissa's sense of love, of justice, of everything, to try and basically turn her to the dark side.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They do it. I mean, they do that more effectively, I think, in movies like Legend, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool to see them do that, and also it's cool to see Marshall be a bad guy for a little bit. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Those eyes look cool when he was evil, the evil version of him.
They do, but like I said, it's just the kind of scene that you would see in an Arthurian legend of a knight being tempted by some witch, or like I said, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight has several episodes like that. And I thought that was a cool kind of thing, that if you're doing a mythic type story like this, you have to include episodes like that because they're so ingrained in our cultural unconscious.
Yeah, it gave the princess something to do too, which I don't like it that much that they have her captive the whole film, but I guess it's kind of the point of him trying to get her back. So it was kind of a little aggravating. I did like it earlier on when she was trying to team up with him before they get separated. She was like, "I'm going to stay with you," and he's like, No, go that way." And she's like, "When am I going to see you again?" It's kind of. I mean, I guess it's kind of the point of the movie, but it is also frustrating that they had to be separated like that.
Yeah, it's classic fridging.
Yeah.
It would be much different in this day and age if you had tried to attempt a remake of Krull. The princess would have a very different outlook on everything.
I feel like if they did this movie again today, and there has been every now and then you'll hear rumblings of a remake of this movie. I feel like what they would do to solve this problem is that they would create a new character who is a female like warrior or somebody or a thief who travels with Colwyn and is able to be like his player two during the quest, and will have like some kind of romantic tension with him, so that there could be this love triangle, basically, this kind of will they or won't they sort of thing.
Yeah,
I could totally see that being a thing that might be interesting.
yeah, you'd have to have some type of tension like what you have in the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. I can't remember the subtitle for the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. Honor Among Thieves.
I love that movie.
Yeah. I thought that turned out pretty good. Yeah. I was surprised by it. It's definitely better than the previous one with Jeremy Irons in it, which is good casting, but that one was a little rough. Yeah,
and that wasn't even a movie.
Yeah.
I know, right? So we should probably talk about the climax of this movie when he finally fights the beast, because this is probably, I mean, a little bit of mild spoilers, folks. This is probably the one time where they really do get into horror movie territory, because there's literally a jump scare in this movie, and it got me all over again, I have to say, when I rewatched it. They have like Colwyn finally uses the glaive. He doesn't just use it once, I will say. He uses it to like kill a lot of slayers, which is really cool, by the way. It's almost like Thor's hammer, by the way, it just goes around, just kills all of them at once. And then he also uses it to cut a hole in a wall in order to get to Lyssa. And then finally he uses it on the beast, who apparently only has one attack, which is fireball from the face. That's all he does. But
yeah,
so
he's like Bowser though. When you get to him, he's nothing, But the whole time you're kind of afraid to fight Bowser, and you get to him, he's like, okay, I beat him. That was pretty easy.
That's how I saw it.
Yeah, see, I never got to Bowser. I always got to like I always thought I would get to Bowser, but then it was like there's Toad, like, oh no, your princess is in another castle. So maybe that's why I never finished that game, because I always got discouraged.
Yeah,
constant Toad telling me my princess is in another castle.
Yeah, you think they're just going to keep doing that shit over and over again? Yeah.
I know, right?
Do that shit for like 8 levels straight,
Yeah, I can't take it. But like he's got the glaive kind of, well, first he tries to bury the beast in rubble, and then he comes out again, and then it stabs him, but the glaive stays in the beast's chest. And the beast falls, which is funny because you never see his leg. For all you know, there's a bunch of tentacles down there or something. You never know.
Right.
But like Colwyn goes to try and get the glaive back by like Thor's hammer type thing, where he's like puts his hand out, it's like, come back to me, glaive. You're so cool. I want you. And then it just stays in the beast's chest. It won't move. And so he's like, oh, he's all depressed. And he goes over to the beast's corpse, ? And then he tries to pull it out, and then jump scare, the beast is still alive. And that's when he has to run away, and that's when Lyssa, we mentioned earlier, says, you don't need it, the power is in you.
How does she know that?
Yeah, and then and then what happens is interesting. Like, this is the part of the movie that I never fully understood, because I don't understand where they get the idea from this from. Maybe Kevin can shed some light on it from the interview that he did with the encyclopedia guy. But like, this movie begins and ends with a marriage ritual, but the ritual is based in this completely alien culture, so that we have no context for it, and it involves magic. Like, magic is so common that it's literally in their marriage ceremony. Like, the ceremony starts in the beginning where Colwyn, like, the bride and groom approach this basin of water, and he's got a little torch in his hand. He says, I give water to fire. And he douses the torch in the water. And he says, it shall not return to me until the woman I love gives it back.
There's no priest there either, or there's no one like actually doing the ceremony.
No.
Well, they had their dad, I think.
Both dads were standing there. Like,
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, because the Slayers came and again, rudely broke up their wedding in the beginning of the movie. They never really got to finish the ceremony, and at this moment, they decide we're going to finish our ceremony. So she magically apparates this fireball in her hand, like she did at the original ceremony, and finally gives it back to him into his hand. And that's when he starts projecting huge plumes of fire from his hand, power of their love.
Yeah.
And in this epic conflagration, destroys the beast. The poor thing burns to death, basically.
Yeah.
Well, love conquers evil is kind of like the whole ideal. It's the love between these two characters are what conquers the big evil, the big bad, the thing that got in between, masquerading as Cowan and such. That it's all symbolic.
Yeah. I guess I just didn't understand. I guess I just don't know. I don't know like where the ritual comes from, like what its inspiration is, and like where they got this idea. Because I feel like it just doesn't. I mean, it does pay off, but it's like I have no context for it at all. I don't know. It always seemed weird to me.
Well, now that you mention it, it actually makes a little more sense to me that she's been holding that fire the whole film, but she can only give it back to him.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of that. That's cool.
Yeah, but maybe she
could. If they just had one shot, if they had just, I'm sorry. I was going to say, if they just had, that would have worked so well. I would have gotten that if they just had one shot in all those scenes of her like wandering around the castle and saying, "Hurry, Cohen!" If she just looked at her hand and the palm of her hand had a little flame. That would have been a perfect setup. I would have gotten it. I've been like, oh, she had that fireball with her the whole time. Awesome. Bam. Missed opportunity.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. It is kind of odd that that would have made it more clear, but it's I guess her holding that fire is something that she's had since the beginning of it, and it must have been the only part of the ceremony that they didn't finish at the beginning.
They don't. Callan puts the flame into the water. She takes the flame from the water, but she's not able to give the flame to him to end their marriage ceremony because it gets interrupted. And of course, by the end, which she finally does, they end the ceremony, and he takes the flame for her. But
I wonder though. Then the third part of it though. She gives him the fire, and then he takes the fire and throws it at the beast. So in the original ceremony, I wonder what the hell they were going to burn up with the fire.
That's a good question. I have no idea.
The dads or something,
You're going to burn them. Maybe. Yeah, oh gosh, that would have been wild. Like, as part of the ceremony, I gotta burn your dad to death.
There has to be some effigy that they needed to burn down, some wicker man or something to symbolize their love, their ceremonial love together that conquers all evil.
Oh God!
It was the dads. They had,
wow!
In order for them to be king and queen, they had to take the dads out.
that's not. Oh my God, guys! I'm sure that is a question.
I'll tell you.
Been asked.
Has not been asked. Oh well. Speaking of effects, there is one effect that I really love about this movie is like at the very end when they finally escape from the fortress. Because one trope that I love in fantasy and science fiction is that whenever you destroy the bad guy, whatever his fortress or lair is, it's always going to start crumbling to pieces. That's going to start, the bomb's going to go off and the place is all going to blow up at the end. So we got to get out of here. Yeah. So same thing happens here. The only variation on this is in Dark Crystal, where everything's falling apart, but in the falling apart, everything's being renewed into this beautiful original crystal thing. So that's the only time I've ever seen somebody do something different with that. But in this case, they get out of the fortress, all the survivors, and the fortress doesn't fall apart, it falls up.
Yeah.
Like it crumbles, but the pieces go up into the sky. Like
it's very convenient for the planet, though.
They don't have a dead castle there.
Yeah.
And you're hoping and you're thinking that because the beast is dead, all the Slayers are dead as well. So.
Yeah.
Well, Thomas said they were the sperm of the beast anyway, so I guess.
You're so wrong. Between the regular Slayers and the white Slayers. Oh, Jesus.
That's right. They were different colors. That's right. They were different colors. They were male and female. Oh.
The white Slayers are only seen in the castle. The other Slayers were seen everywhere. There is no reason for that we could figure out. It was just a stylistic thing, from what I understand. It just looked cooler, I guess. I'm sure. So now that we've kind of talked about the whole movie, the things I wanted to reveal to you now is like when Eric, the writer of the book, was writing his book, the majority of the actors, like 90% of the actors, did not want to speak with him for various reasons, most of which is he got the response back that most of them this was a blemish on their careers and they just didn't want to talk about the movie. And so they just didn't, which is kind of sad, that this was such a huge blemish on most of the cast careers. Like, it killed Ken Marshall's career. It literally killed. Yeah, he refused.
It had only just begun, I would assume. But I will say this about the movie. The budget was $30 million. The box office take was $16.9 million. So that hurts.
Yeah,
yeah.
Dang.
It hurt. It hurts, and
but still though, it's been so many years, and there's so many people have seen this film and are fond of it. It's kind of odd that none of them would want to talk about it. Even like none of them. Like,
he talked to three. I think three of the actors, all of the tech people. He talked to almost every one of the tech people for this movie.
Yeah.
That's why he knows so much about the visual effects and how long it took and all that type of stuff. So he talked about a lot of the tech people and some of the stuff that they had to deal with while making the movie. But in terms of the actors, I think there was only 3 or 4 actors, and none of them really were the main actors. None of the main actors.
I'm sure Liam Neeson was all over.
I was about to say, did he talk to Liam?
He did not talk to Liam Neeson. No.
Oh.
But like an actor like Liam Neeson though would be more likely to want to talk about it, since it clearly didn't blemish his career. You know.
Well, keep in mind that a lot of people see this movie. This movie is a cult movie, but a lot of people see this movie as like Ishtar. They're not talking about fucking Ishtar, and no one wants to talk about Ishtar.
But Ishtar was a lot greater, a lot more devastating than this. It's one of the movies that lost the most money ever.
Oh yeah, I seriously doubt that this movie got the critical tongue lashing that Ishtar got. I mean, come on.
Well, I also think you're not going to be able to talk to Tom Hanks and say, Tom Hanks, you want to talk about Bonfire of the Vanities? He's going to say, fuck no.
Again, that Bonfire of the Vanities was a really well-regarded book, and that movie had a lot of writing on it because the book was so prestigious. This had nothing writing on it, and that's another thing that we like about this movie is that you can't make Krull today because every freaking fantasy thing has to be based on IP. Every fantasy thing has to be based on a book or a comic. Which, by the way, this movie did have a Marvel comic, apparently.
It did.
Did it? Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you, in that Marvel comic, do they go beyond the movie? Do they show you what happened after?
I don't remember. I had this comic book back then. Actually, I had the comic book, and I read it several times. But I gave away or sold all my comic books so many years ago. I had not gone back to reread this. But this was designed to be a huge blockbuster movie. It was not, and there was a game made for this. There are figures made. You read the book, he has pictures of all this stuff that was made for this movie. That some of it actually came out and disappeared faster than you would think. Like the Krull game, if you're lucky, you can find it on eBay right now. If you're lucky, there's stuff like this that they thought was going to help this movie be big. It was not big. It wasn't anything. It kind of came, went, and was derided as horribly bad or derivative. I don't remember because I saw it on TV, so I couldn't even tell you when I actually saw this movie.
I bet it made some money back on TV though, because it got a lot of play later.
Yeah, but the thing is, back then,
VHS.
The thing back then is you're thinking about, I guarantee you on TV, because that's where I saw it. I know I saw it because I recorded it.
Well, they didn't make any money off of you because you recorded it one time and
Yeah,
watched
that's
it
the
like
thing.
30 times.
Yeah, you freaking pirated it.
I did. But I used to watch a lot of movies on HBO, which would blanket bad, movies that did poorly at the box office. HBO played 200 times.
Yeah. Certainly. I watched the same ones. I'm sure I taped them too, and and watched them over and over again.
Over the years, movies like this, get these small cult followings, and I don't think even think the cult following for this is a huge cult following. I still think it's a small cult following for this movie. I
get the impression
talk about it.
I get the impression that the cult for Beastmaster might be bigger. I don't know.
Yeah. I noticed that it's on a lot of lists of you look at best sword and sorcery films. It does end up on there with Conan the Destroyer, Red Sonja, Beastmaster, Krull, and Clash of the Titans, and the Sword and the Sorcerer.
But to be honest with you, that list has probably got all of the sword and sorcery movies on there at some point. If you're putting Red Sonja on that list, you've probably putting all of them on there.
Well,
don't forget,
but it's always
don't
like
forget,
yeah.
And don't forget Lucio Fulci's Conquest.
Well, really, I've seen like a lot of lists, and it almost always is on the list in the top 10. So it's of the other sword and sorcerer films from the 80s.
The sword.
Oh yeah, mark my words. Yeah, mark my words, ladies and gentlemen. Of all those movies we mentioned, none of them are quite like Krull. Yeah. None of them have none of them. I'm not being facetious, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing quite like this movie that came out. And I think that's part of the reason why it failed, is because this movie must have been very hard to sell. This movie must have been very hard to kind of pitch to people in the early 80s. Like, it's not quite Star Wars, but it's not quite it's not quite, Robin Hood or King Arthur. It's not either of those things. It's kind of in between. And that's probably what made it so hard to sell. Nowadays, you can probably sell it pretty easily. But
fantasy films don't do well either. You're right. Fantasy films don't do well because unless they're based on IP. You could name the only fantasy film you could probably name that's been popular in the last 2 decades is either Lord of the Rings based or it's Dune based, and Dune is just popular now. Like David Lynch's Dune is not talked about fondly.
Yeah.
They made the two miniseries too, but
no one talks about those, even though they're pretty good.
They're all right. The new Dune was really good, though. They did a really good job. I even got my wife to watch that one. She hates the David Lynch one. So
I grew up on the David Lynch one, so I've seen it 100 times.
Yeah, me too. But it's like showing it to her one time. She's like, I don't understand what's going on. But the new one did a really good job of making you understand it without having to read the book first.
Exactly. I'm never reading the book. Sorry, Herbert. I'm never reading the Dune book. I tried. It was boring to me, and I'm never going to go back and try it.
Yeah, it's a hard story to tell. It's a hard story to tell and keep people's interest in it, like especially getting into it. But
I do think that and this wasn't the only 80s movies that tried to do something like this. You still had movies like Buckaroo Banzai and Big Trouble in Little China. They all were outside the norm, trying to mix fantasy with other elements, and none of them made money. We're talking about movies that they just don't. And that's one of the great things about talking about the 80s is we got a lot of shit that was weird.
Yeah.
In the 80s. Like, we got a lot of stuff. Repo Man. We got a lot of weird shit in the 80s, dude.
That's why I love the 80s so much, man.
Yeah.
It was a different time, man.
And none of that would ever fly today. None of it. You could not do any of that today. None of it. It's a shame. It's a shame because when you introduce someone to something like Krull or Buckaroo Banzai, which is batshit crazy, or Big Trouble in Little China, which is a huge cult movie. These are films that people remember over and over again. They love this. Newer generations go and watch these things, and they love these movies because they are so different from everything else being produced out there. Krull has comedy in it. It has adventure. It has horror elements. It has sci-fi elements. It has fantasy elements. It has medieval freaking elements. It's got so
Yeah.
much stuff in this rich tapestry of a story that seems familiar, but also is kind of weird and different.
Yeah, we should probably also reference people out there to seek out our.
I have no idea what you just said.
Good back to back with this one.
What?
Oh, I said we should. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead. Go say it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying that since you referenced it, we should probably remind people out there that we did an episode on Big Trouble in Little China. You should probably go back into our archives and watch that, listen to that one right after this one, because I think it makes a good double feature.
It does. And that's one of the great things about our show is I like to talk about films that are not just horror, but horror adjacent, or films that I think will appeal to us horror fans. Big Trouble in Little China being one of them, and Krull, which kind of gets me to our next thing, which is how much does this film integrate itself within our horror genre, and should it be included within our conversation in horror?
Well, let me say this, Kevin, about that, because I'm glad you mentioned that. Like, I feel like, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little peek behind the curtain here a little bit. This is just going to be the first of a series of fantasy films that we're going to talk about here, and I'm not going to spoil what they are, but let me just say that there's a few others on this list that this very short list that I feel like this movie's horror elements are not nearly as much as some of the other ones we got on this list. I mean, Legend, I think, is much more horror driven than this one is. But I think but Krull, I think, has just enough to where it qualifies. And you know what? Let's be real here, folks. Some of the very not too long ago, I would say 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when AFI did their like scariest movie moments thing,
Yeah.
3 of those came from fantasy movies. They came from Wizard of Oz. They came from Charlie and the Chocolate, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And there's a third one, I can't remember where it was. But like everybody is scared to death of the Wicked Witch of the West. Everybody was scared to death of that hallucinogenic ride thing in Willy Wonka.
What the hell is going on in that scene, though? It's like, it's still like, what is that? I know,
right? I know, right? But the point is that horror movies aren't the only place where you're going to find horror. Horror will creep into other genres and find you no matter where you are, ladies and gentlemen. Because
this movie is not doesn't have horror listed in it in any. If you look at the genres that it's listed under, it's listed under a lot of different genres, but it does have horror aspects, and it has throughout. It has starting with that swamp stuff and the shapeshifter and the spider and the monster itself.
It has monsters. It has monsters. It has a jump scare, and because the way it uses monsters is one thing I realized when I was thinking about genre and thinking about that horror and fantasy often bleed together. In fact, I feel like we definitely should do the one movie that I think qualifies as like half and half horror and fantasy, which is Clive Barker's Hellraiser 2. Mm-hmm. That movie is a horror fantasy, I think, hands down. Nightbreed, I think, also qualifies.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is like I feel like horror and fantasy both use monsters the same way. And they fulfill the same function, which is that monsters represent our fears, our hang-ups, are the personifications of things that we need to fight. The only difference is tone or the world in which it's set. Otherwise, horror uses monsters the same way that fantasy does. They're there to be confronted by the hero, whether it's a final girl or whether it's a prince with a spitting blade thingamajigger. It doesn't matter. It's the same kind of thing. I mean, I will not take any arguments because I feel like that's the succinct way to do it.
Okay. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm already kind of said I'm okay with it. It's like I say, it's got some horror in it, so what, might as well.
So
Me,
I
I
guess the only question that remains is, how would we rate this movie?
Yep, you're about to get to what I was already going to get to. So, and for everyone listening to the show, what we love to do is we love to rate the movies between our system of 1 star to 5 star, 1 star being a poor movie, 5 stars being an excellent movie. Where on the spectrum do each of you put Krull? Let's start with you, Tom, Miss Thomas.
Thomas, thank you. Thank you. My son is Tommy, not me. But yes. So I also like to take an object from this movie that I feel like defines it. And because I'm not so vanilla that I use just stars, man. But with this movie, I think it's irresistible. I can't not use an object that itself is a star. The glaive itself. That object defines the movie. It's in the freaking poster. It's the very first thing you see in the movie. It's flying around in space in the beginning. So the glaive is my object, and I would give this movie 3.5, barely half.
Barely. You should just
3.5 glaives out of 5.
All right. What about you, Dave?
So I'll pick an object too, since that's what Thomas is doing. It's kind of a cool thing he does. But I knew he was gonna pick the glaive. But I didn't know that because usually doesn't pick the item you would think. But I would have thought that would be the one that you would pick. But I'm gonna say a fiery hand since yeah on this one. Um, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. Uh, I'm looking
Fiery
forward.
hands out of
Yeah,
5.
yeah, 3 fiery hands out of 5. I do. I am looking forward to seeing this in 4K. I am going to because some of these special effects, I feel like they would look better, hopefully in 4K. Because some of them, especially like the fiery pony stuff, looks pretty rough. It's a very inventive scene, but that whole like green screen. But I've seen some scenes recently that like say the stuff, for instance. I've seen some green screen scenes in that look a lot worse in Blu-ray than they do in 4K. But they still don't look perfect, but they don't look quite as shoddy. But yeah, so three
Yeah.
3 stars, and I don't know. That's where I'm gonna. That's all the best I can do for this one.
So, for everyone listening, because I grew up with this film, even though I missed the first 10, 15 minutes of it, for like my entire 80s life, and having seen this movie 100 times at least, the very few movies like this were part of my childhood. And I always wanted the glaive. I would have chosen that as my object, but that was too obvious, so I wasn't going to pick that one. But I have a huge fondness for films like this. Like I said, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimensions, one of my favorite movies of all time. Big Trouble in Little China, as we've talked about that movie before, as you know, if you listen to that episode, is one of my favorite movies of all time. This movie is also one of my favorite movies of all time. I've got to give this a 4.5. Fiery thoroughbreds going through the sky. I have to do that. The thing is, I always wanted to be riding one of those fucking thoroughbreds, dude. I was like, shit, they got the coolest horses ever. Where can I get one of those horses? And I wanted one of those horses as a kid. It didn't, when you're a kid, you realize some things you realize aren't real. Some things you wish were real. I always wanted one of those fucking horses, just like I wanted the glaive. I got the glaive. Even though it's a little smaller than the full size glaive, I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get someone to print me up a 1-to-1 version of that glaive from a 3D printer. But the thing is, this is a movie I absolutely do love, and I was fortunate enough to talk to the author Eric Wolford for his book, Krull, the unofficial companion to the film. It was a great conversation. Hopefully you all out there listening to this podcast will take your time to listen to that podcast as well. Also keep in mind that podcast is also going to be available as a video version. So you can go to our website on YouTube, watch the video version of me and him speaking about the film. You'll get to learn a whole bunch more behind the scenes about the movie and a lot of the other stuff, including a recipe to cook your own dessert based on the glaive The book is actually really good. It's got a lot of great stuff in the book. So you should not only listen to us talk about the book, but also go out and purchase the book. It's available everywhere. You go on Amazon, you can find the book everywhere. It's virtually everywhere. But with that, guys, I want to thank you for talking with me for this episode about Krull. We were definitely going to hit on Legend. Legend is one of the key horror fantasy films that we are going to talk about eventually. But if you're listening to this podcast, please make mention of any films, especially these fantasy horror films, these other films that kind of strut different genres. Make mention of those in our comments, because we would love to hear what type of other films you'd like us to handle, because we're willing to talk about anything on this podcast. And with that, I would like to thank you guys for joining us in this conversation. I want to thank you all for listening to this conversation. Make sure to listen to any of our previous episodes. We have over 150 episodes on various different films. You will have a fun time listening to those episodes on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube. Don't forget to check out our sister podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which is on our Patreon page. I delve into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. That is on our Patreon supported page, which means you have to be a follower or supporter of that page. So make sure you become a supporter of that page in order to not miss an episode of that podcast. With that, I want to thank you all for joining us, and have a great day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.